Hey, Mom. Just wanted to check in. Everything's good. It's quiet here. I'll call you when I get back.
At 21:14 on March 3rd, 2022, resort security camera C17 at Cancun International Airport records a man exiting the international arrivals corridor alone. He moves at a normal pace, does not pause to look around, and does not interact with anyone in the frame. Passport control records later identify him as Daniel Mercer, age 29, software support technician, U.S. citizen. He is carrying a single backpack over his right shoulder. Baggage claim footage shows no checked luggage retrieved under his name. Investigators later note that this aligns with the short duration of the trip listed on his itinerary. At 22:02, exterior and interior cameras at a beachfront hotel on Boulevard Cancun capture Mercer entering the lobby and approaching the front desk. Transaction logs confirm a 3-night reservation finalized on site using his personal debit card. The booking lists one occupant. No companion is registered and no additional key cards are issued. Front desk staff later report the interaction as brief and routine. There are no recorded requests for transportation, excursions, or special accommodations. At 23:41, hallway camera H3 shows Mercer exiting the elevator on the 6th floor and walking toward room 614. He unlocks the door with his key card and enters. The door closes behind him. This is the last confirmed camera footage placing Mercer inside the hotel. Key card system logs later established no further room access events after this entry. Investigators flagged this timestamp as the final verified interior location. At 08:16 the following morning, Mercer sends a short video message to his mother. The file is 22 seconds long. He is seated outdoors, with the ocean visible in the background and morning light consistent with local conditions. He states that everything is fine, that the trip is quiet, and that he will call after returning home. Digital forensics later confirmed the video was recorded and transmitted from inside room 614 using the hotel's Wi-Fi network. No editing metadata is detected. At 12:58, exterior pool camera P9 captures Mercer walking along the property toward a public beach access path. He is wearing sandals, shorts, and a t-shirt. He is carrying his phone in his right hand. His posture appears relaxed. There are no visible signs of distress or urgency. This camera angle shows him exiting the controlled hotel area. There is no corresponding footage of him re-entering through any access point later that day. By early evening, anomalies begin to appear. At 19:30, hotel keycard logs show no additional attempts to access room 614. Housekeeping staff report this service was declined earlier and that the room remains untouched the following morning. No personal belongings are removed by hotel staff and no checkout request is initiated. The room remains in the same condition it was left after the initial entry. At 6:10 on March 5th, airline records indicate Mercer did not check in for his scheduled return flight to Dallas, Texas. Automated notifications from the airline are sent to the email address on file. There is no response. Travel records confirm no alternative flights were booked under his name. Border exit databases show no departure from Mexico through any official checkpoint. By 14:22 that afternoon, Mercer's mother contacts local police in Texas after repeated unanswered calls and messages. She reports the missed flight and the lack of communication, noting that this behavior is inconsistent with his normal routine. A missing person report is initiated. Through established protocols, a welfare check request is forwarded to Mexican authorities and hotel management is contacted. This is the point at which the case shifts classification. What initially presents as a delayed return becomes a cross-border missing person investigation, with the last confirmed evidence anchored to a brief video message stating that everything was fine. Daniel Mercer resided alone in a 1-bedroom apartment in Plano, Texas. Lease records show uninterrupted tenancy for 3 years, with rent payments made on time through automatic withdrawal. Utility usage reflected normal residential patterns with no extended absences or abnormal spikes. There were no prior welfare checks, police calls, or emergency responses associated with the address. Investigators later noted that Mercer's living situation reflected long-term stability rather than transition or disengagement. Employment records established Mercer as a software support technician for a regional logistics firm. Human resources files show no disciplinary actions, no pending complaints, and no recent requests for leave beyond the approved vacation tied to the Cancun trip. Attendance logs confirm consistent work hours and punctuality. Supervisors describe Mercer as reliable and methodical, with a preference for structured tasks and predictable routines. There is no documentation of workplace conflict or performance concerns. Financial analysis covering the 6 months preceding travel shows a narrow and repetitive spending profile. Bank statements reflect routine expenditures: rent, utilities, fuel, groceries, and digital services. There are no large cash withdrawals, no wire transfers, and no peer-to-peer payments to unknown recipients. Credit reports show no delinquent accounts or collection actions. Investigators later concluded there was no financial pressure consistent with flight risk or planned disappearance. Phone records further reinforce this baseline. Call logs indicate near daily contact with Mercer's mother, typically brief conversations in the evening hours. Messaging history shows limited social interaction beyond family and a small number of coworkers. In the week prior to departure, text frequency increases modestly, focused on travel logistics such as flight times, hotel confirmation, and return dates. There are no messages indicating distress, secrecy, or urgency. Travel planning records show the Cancun trip was booked 9 days before departure using a widely used online platform. Mercer selected a mid-range beachfront hotel and a standard commercial flight. The reservation lists a single occupant. No additional names, shared itineraries, or linked bookings are associated with the trip. Payment was made using Mercer's personal debit card. Investigators found no evidence of third-party involvement in the planning process. Co-worker interviews conducted after his disappearance revealed limited discussion of the trip. Mercer reportedly mentioned needing a reset and taking time off to rest. He did not reference meeting anyone, attending events, or engaging in organized activities. There were no statements suggesting anticipation, secrecy, or concern. Investigators found no indication of a romantic relationship connected to the destination, either domestically or abroad. Immigration and Customs records confirm Mercer entered Mexico legally on March 3 at 2011 local time. Entry processing was routine. There were no alerts, secondary screenings, or customs declarations requiring follow-up. His passport history shows prior international travel limited to short vacations, all of which concluded without incident. There is no record of overstays, visa issues, or denied entries. A review of Mercer's digital activity before departure shows consistent usage patterns. Email access, browsing history, and application data reflect normal behavior. There are no spikes in encrypted messaging usage, no bulk deletions, and no searches related to illegal activity, offshore banking, or identity changes. Investigators note the absence of preparatory behavior commonly seen in voluntary disappearance cases. Taken together, these records establish a stable and predictable baseline. Mercer maintained employment, financial control, routine communication, and lawful travel habits. There are no indicators of intentional disengagement from his life in Texas. This baseline becomes critical once deviations emerge, as it frames subsequent events as anomalous rather than expected. Formal analysis of Daniel Mercer's digital activity begins on March 6th, after coordination is established between U.S. telecommunications providers and Mexican investigative authorities. Preservation requests are issued to carriers, financial institutions, and cloud service platforms. Investigators prioritize device metadata and transactional records to determine whether Mercer remained active after his last physical sighting. This phase of the inquiry is focused on identifying objective signals rather than witness recollection. Call detail records indicate the last confirmed cellular ping from Mercer's phone occurs at 13:07 on March 4th. The signal originates from a tower servicing the beachfront zone adjacent to the hotel. After this point, the device ceases transmission. There is no log of a manual power down, no low battery shutdown event, and no re-registration to another network. Digital forensics specialists later note that this pattern is consistent with sudden physical damage, loss of signal capability, or submersion in water. Financial data provides the next verified activity point. Bank records show a single transaction processed at 1319 on March 4 for $42.60 at a beachfront bar located south of the hotel. Timestamp point of sale logs match Mercer's debit card number. Surveillance footage from the bar confirms his presence. He is seated alone, consumes a single beverage, and completes payment without interaction with staff beyond the transaction. There are no additional purchases or gratuity disputes. At 1334, exterior cameras from the same establishment capture Mercer exiting the bar. He leaves on foot, heading south along the shoreline. He is not accompanied by anyone. His pace appears unhurried. Investigators note that his phone is not visibly in use during this interval, though it remains in his possession. This footage establishes the last confirmed financial and visual record of Mercer. Following this point, bank monitoring systems show no further activity. There are no ATM withdrawals, declined transactions, or balance inquiries. Automatic payments scheduled after March 4 remain pending until account access is suspended during the missing person investigation. Analysts later conclude that the absence of subsequent transactions indicates Mercer did not retain functional access to his financial instruments beyond that afternoon. Parallel inquiries at the hotel yield no indicators of conflict or preparation for departure. Staff interviews confirm Mercer declined housekeeping services and did not request transportation, excursions, or assistance. There are no reports of disputes, complaints, or unusual behavior. Front desk logs show no attempts to extend the stay or inquire about late checkout. His belongings remain in the room when access is later granted to authorities. Investigators also review rideshare and transportation platform records linked to Mercer's accounts. No rides are requested before or after his last confirmed sighting. Taxi logs reviewed in coordination with local authorities show no matches to his name or card information. This absence suggests Mercer did not arrange motorized transport after leaving the bar. Cloud service access logs introduce a notable deviation. At 14:02 on March 4, Mercer's email account registers a brief login. The IP address resolves to a public Wi-Fi network servicing the beachfront area. Session duration is under 2 minutes. No emails are sent, received, or opened. No files are accessed. There are no security alerts or password changes associated with the login. This login occurs after the final confirmed sighting and before the phone permanently stops transmitting. Investigators flag the sequence as a critical anomaly. It establishes device interaction beyond the last visual record while providing no explanatory content. From this point forward, all digital, financial, and network activity associated with Daniel Mercer ceases. Investigators assemble a detailed timeline of Daniel Mercer's final confirmed movements using synchronized footage from public, private, and commercial camera systems along the beachfront corridor south of his hotel. Each camera's internal clock is cross-referenced with transaction timestamps and network logs to correct for drift. This process allows analysts to reconstruct the narrow window of movement measured in minutes rather than hours. At 13:34 on March 4, exterior cameras at the beachfront bar capture Mercer exiting the property. He walks south along the shoreline, remaining close to the waterline rather than the paved pedestrian path. His gait appears steady, and there is no visible sign of impairment. He is not observed checking his phone or interacting with other patrons as he leaves the camera's field of view. At 13:41, footage from a private hotel camera approximately 600 meters south records a male subject walking alone near the surf. Facial identification is limited due to distance and glare from reflected sunlight. However, clothing, build, and footwear are consistent with what Mercer was wearing minutes earlier. Analysts later determined there are no overlapping sightings of another individual matching this description in the area during that time window. At 13:55, a public access camera positioned near a jet ski rental stand captures a brief interaction between Mercer and two unidentified adult males. The men stand several feet apart, facing each other. There is no visible physical contact. Audio is unavailable, and the exchange lasts approximately 90 seconds. Investigators cannot determine the content of the conversation. The men then separate, walking in different directions. Camera coverage beyond this point becomes fragmented. At 14:01, Mercer is no longer visible on any fixed cameras servicing the beachfront corridor. Analysts confirm that there are no blind spots between the last two confirmed camera locations that would reasonably allow extended movement without detection, suggesting a rapid transition out of the monitor zone. Investigators consider environmental factors at this stage. Marine assessments conducted later identify strong lateral currents in the area, particularly during mid-afternoon tide changes. The seabed is uneven, with sudden drop-offs not visible from shore. There are no lifeguard stations assigned to that stretch of beach, and warning signage is minimal. These conditions are documented in coastal safety reports predating the incident. Emergency response data is reviewed. There are no 911 equivalent calls logged from the area during the relevant time window. Local Marine Patrol records show no distress signals or radio traffic. No emergency beacons or personal safety devices are registered to Mercer. The absence of emergency indicators complicates efforts to pinpoint the moment of incident. Witness canvassing conducted in the days following yields limited information. Beachgoers and vendors report routine activity consistent with a normal afternoon. No one recalls a struggle, a cry for help, or a medical emergency. Investigators later note that ambient noise from surf and recreational equipment could mask isolated incidents. Based on the convergence of evidence, the investigation's posture shifts. With no further sightings, no digital activity, and environmental hazards present, authorities formally reclassify the case from a missing person investigation to a presumed fatality pending recovery. This determination guides the scope and allocation of subsequent search efforts. A coordinated search operation is initiated on March 7, 3 days after Daniel Mercer was last seen. Local authorities activate marine response units in cooperation with civil protection agencies. The search area is defined using the last confirmed camera sighting, prevailing current patterns, and tidal data from the preceding 72 hours. A grid is established extending both north and south along the shoreline, with offshore sweeps conducted by patrol boats at increasing distances. Search efforts initially focus on surface observation in nearshore zones. Marine units conduct repeated passes during daylight hours, while shoreline teams walk designated sectors looking for personal effects or disturbance in the sand. Helicopter support is requested but limited due to operational availability. Weather conditions during the first 2 days of the search include moderate surf and reduced underwater visibility, complicating detection efforts. On March 11, at approximately 0940, a Marine Patrol unit reports the discovery of a body floating near a rocky outcrop approximately 3.2 kilometers south of the last confirmed sighting location. The body is recovered and transported to shore under controlled conditions. Scene documentation is completed before transfer to the medical examiner's office. Investigators note that ocean current modeling places the recovery location within the expected drift range for the elapsed time period. Personal identifiers on the body are limited due to environmental exposure. Clothing is consistent with what Mercer was last observed wearing on March 4th. No wallet or mobile phone is recovered. Footwear remains intact. There are no visible signs of restraint or binding. Photographs and physical descriptors are forwarded to forensic specialists for confirmation. Dental records obtained from Mercer's medical provider are compared with post-mortem findings. Identification is confirmed within 24 hours. Family notification is conducted through established consular and law enforcement channels. The remains are released for further examination following identification confirmation. The medical examiner conducts a full post-mortem evaluation. The cause of death is determined to be drowning. There are no defensive injuries, fractures, or trauma indicative of assault. Soft tissue findings are consistent with prolonged submersion. Toxicology screening returns negative for alcohol, narcotics, and common prescription sedatives. There is no evidence of intoxication at the time of death. Investigators document the absence of the mobile phone as a significant but inconclusive factor. Searches conducted in the recovery area do not locate the device. Analysts note that electronic devices are frequently unrecoverable in marine incidents due to current displacement and equipment degradation. No attempt is made to attribute the absence of the phone to third-party involvement without supporting evidence. A comprehensive review of the case file follows recovery. All available surveillance footage, financial records, digital logs, and witness statements are re-examined in light of the medical findings. No new evidence emerges to suggest criminal involvement. The brief interaction captured on camera near the jet ski rental stand is reviewed again and assessed as non-confrontational. Based on the totality of evidence, investigators classify the death as accidental. Environmental conditions, lack of safety infrastructure, and situational vulnerability are cited as contributing factors. The case is closed without criminal charges. The findings are documented for internal review and training reference, with emphasis on coastal risk assessment and limitations of post-incident reconstruction. With recovery and identification complete, investigators formally assess the evidentiary record for potential criminal liability. No suspects are named. No individual is identified as having exercised control, coercion, or force over Daniel Mercer during the documented timeline. The absence of direct evidence linking any third party to the cause of death precludes further prosecutorial action. The case remains administrative rather than adversarial in its final disposition. The two unidentified males briefly observed on camera near the jet ski rental stand are documented in the case file as persons of interest for contextual purposes only. Despite image enhancement efforts and outreach to local operators, their identities are never conclusively established. The footage does not capture facial details sufficient for identification, and no matching reports or admissions are obtained. Investigators note that transient tourism patterns in the area significantly limit follow-up viability. The video message sent to Mercer's mothers at 8:16 on March 4th is preserved as a key evidentiary artifact. Digital analysis confirms it is the last intentional communication initiated by Mercer. The message contains no coded language, distress indicators, or implied threats. Its content is consistent with prior routine communications. Investigators later referenced the video as a temporal anchor, establishing Mercer's state of mind earlier that day. Case review panels examined whether the video could have been staged or coerced. Forensic analysis finds no indicators of third-party presence, manipulation, or delay between recording and transmission. Audio channels capture only ambient wind and surf consistent with the balcony location. Metadata confirms origination from Mercer's device using authenticated credentials. The message is therefore treated as a genuine and voluntary communication. Despite this clarity, investigators acknowledge unresolved circumstantial questions. The precise moment of entry into the water is not documented. The fate of Mercer's mobile phone remains unknown. The brief email login after the last confirmed sighting cannot be contextualized further. These elements are cataloged as informational gaps rather than evidentiary contradictions, and no inference of criminal conduct is assigned to their absence. The case is formally classified as an accidental death influenced by environmental exposure and situational vulnerability. Contributing factors include limited surveillance coverage beyond fixed camera zones, absence of lifeguard supervision in the area, and hazardous marine conditions. Investigators emphasize that these factors align with documented coastal risk profiles rather than anomalous behavior specific to Mercer. Training summaries generated from the case highlight the limitations of digital reconstruction in marine environments. Analysts note that abrupt signal loss, device non-recovery, and fragmented visual coverage are common in coastal incidents. The case is incorporated into instructional materials addressing expectations management for families and media when evidence remains incomplete despite exhaustive review. Consular correspondence concludes with notification that all investigative avenues within jurisdictional authority have been exhausted. Mercer's family is provided with a final report outlining findings, timelines, and conclusions. No additional inquiries are pending. The case is not scheduled for re-examination absent new evidence. The file is archived with a procedural close. The final entry notes that Daniel Mercer's death was not the result of criminal action, but of circumstances that could not be mitigated once he exited monitored areas. The record remains available for reference in future training and policy review. Case file closed.